To mark his retirement, I'm organizing a special trip to Spain with our parents starting today. I'll be using your Platinum card for the expenses so we can make the most of this celebratory trip. I hope you understand the urgency because we need to leave soon. I'm a bit confused. Can you clarify what you meant by using my card? Could you explain a bit more about the trip? Sorry, I must leave now, but we can discuss the details when I return. Just one heads up, though. The card might not work. Apparently, my husband Daniel already took it to fund a vacation with our parents. I've tolerated a lot from Daniel, but this time he's crossed the line. When he's back, he's going to regret his decision. My name is Angela, and at 35, I've carved out a successful career at a major company after graduating from a prestigious university. Despite being young, I earn enough to support not just Daniel, who's currently unemployed, but potentially a child as well, though we haven't started a family yet. We've been married for 4 years and are considering having kids. Despite my stable job and good income, I'm not entirely satisfied with my life. The idea of having a child is still just that, an idea. Meanwhile, Daniel's unemployment is a stark reality. Tonight, I'm not hungry because I snacked earlier, but that's a minor issue compared to Daniel's job situation. He didn't attend a job interview today. Instead, he stayed home browsing job sites. Daniel left his last full-time job a year ago and has since only taken up temporary part-time positions, quitting each one after a short period. He's currently looking at both full-time and part-time jobs. I keep encouraging him to focus on securing a full-time job. I understand there's a right time for everything, but I wish he could find stable employment soon. There's a reason he can't be pushed too hard since he left his last job, but it's high time he settled into a steady role. Daniel had a tough fallout at his last job due to a disagreement over work policies. He initially stood his ground against his boss, backed by his colleagues. However, as tensions heightened, his coworkers shifted their allegiance back to the boss, leaving Daniel isolated. Feeling betrayed and unsupported, he found it increasingly difficult to continue at the company and ultimately resigned. Post-resignation, Daniel retreated into himself, spending most of his time alone in his room. After a couple of weeks, he began to re-engage with daily life, helping around the house. Despite making jokes about having plenty of time on his hands, his smiles didn't quite reach his eyes. It took another 3 weeks for Daniel to start job hunting again. He felt optimistic about interviews and was determined to make a fresh start. But the job search proved more challenging than anticipated. Despite his efforts and qualifications, rejections piled up, which he attributed to his contentious departure from his previous job. This left him feeling discouraged and questioning his worth. The cycle of rejection affected Daniel deeply, leading to a sense of defiance and hopelessness. One day, I came home to find shredded resumes all over the living room floor. It was clear his recent interview hadn't gone well. I approached the situation cautiously, suggesting he throw away the torn papers. Daniel then expressed a desire to stop job hunting altogether, questioning the point of it all since we could manage my salary alone. While some thrive as full-time homemakers, this wasn't what Daniel envisioned for himself. It seemed more like an escape from facing his job search challenges. Recognizing his struggle and the impact of his last job experience, I decided to give him space and support, hoping he would find his way. In the meantime, we needed to have a serious conversation about our future and his career plans, as the situation wasn't sustainable in the long term. I've always been dedicated to my work, so this extended break isn't just about idling away. It's meant to be a period of preparation for what comes next. It's reassuring to hear that you're focusing on the future. Living close to my in-laws, Daniel's mom Helen, and dad Peter has its dynamics. They started visiting more frequently after Daniel quit his job, likely concerned about him. When they heard he was gearing up for his next career move, they seemed visibly relieved, but the reality was quite different. "The beer's running low. Can you pick some up on your way home?" I asked one evening. "Again? You're drinking too much. Try to cut back a bit," I suggested gently. Fine, I won't ask again. I'll get it myself, Daniel responded somewhat tersely. Despite appearances, Daniel wasn't preparing for a new job. His days were mostly filled with TV and beer. I suspect he was embarrassed about his unemployment, and I chose not to disclose the full extent of it to his parents, to protect his feelings. After more than 4 months without any job-seeking activity, I felt it was time to address the elephant in the room. Daniel, maybe it's time to start looking for work again. You seem more settled now, I ventured. What? It's only been 7 months since my last job. You want me to work again after what happened? He replied, his tone mixed with disbelief and irritation. I just think the break has been quite long. Let's not drag this out, I pressed, only to be met with, stop nagging. You can't understand my feelings when your job is going well. I have my struggles, you know. Everyone faces work problems and relationship issues. Despite the tension, Daniel agreed to start job hunting, which felt like a step forward, though he walked out during our conversation, clearly upset by our exchange. When Daniel calmed down, I planned to apologize, hoping to ease the tension. His next update caught me off guard. I got a job because you pushed me, he said one day, a mix of reluctance and acknowledgement in his voice. That's great. Where? I asked. At a nearby supermarket, he replied, adding, so you'll need to learn and work hard, right? His response was dismissive. It's just part-time, no need to work too hard. Whether part-time or full-time, I believe any job is significant. But I held back further comment, deciding instead to see how this step might help him regain his footing. I'm home, Daniel announced one day, not long after. You're back early. How's the job going at the pub? I inquired, mixing up his actual workplace. I quit the supermarket job. A college student there was being bossy, always telling me where to put the boxes in storage. It felt like harassment, he explained, frustration evident. The student was likely just instructing him on the proper procedures, a common practice in any job setting, but Daniel's pattern of finding and quitting jobs continued unabated. It became clear that Daniel's challenges with maintaining employment were deeper than just finding the right job. It's been a year since our last serious discussion about work, and Daniel now tells me he's working part-time at a pub, an industry he's never tried before. He finds it fascinating and believes he might have discovered his true passion. Really? That's fantastic, I respond, though I can't help but worry about the financial aspect. But isn't the income from a part-time job in a restaurant somewhat limited? That's okay, Daniel assures me, his eyes alight with a new kind of determination. I'm currently apprenticing and aiming to become independent. I plan to own my place someday. That sounds like a solid plan, I reply, genuinely pleased to see him with a goal. Here, take this and treat yourself to something nice for once, I added, handing him some money to encourage his new venture. However, the reality behind Daniel's optimistic facade soon surfaces. Just 5 days after our conversation, he quits the pub job. Not only that, but he continues to deceive everyone, including his parents from whom he accepts money under pretenses. This revelation is a harsh blow, and I find myself grappling with disappointment and frustration towards my husband. Determined to address the issue more directly than before, I seize an opportunity one evening as he watches a movie. Hey, Daniel, let's talk, I say, reaching for the remote and pausing the movie. It's frustrating when you pause at the best part. What is it? Daniel complains, clearly annoyed. Daniel, you're 37 now, right? That's prime working age. Don't you think about the future, spending all day at home, drinking and just watching TV? The future? There are plenty of 37-year-olds not working. Many people enjoy life without a job, he retorts defensively. True, work isn't everything, but those people have something else they're dedicated to. Do you have something like that? Yeah, I know you're upset about me not working. I'll look for another part-time job, Daniel replies, his tone dismissive but with a hint of concession. Although Daniel seems set on only working part-time, considering his history of quitting jobs and the underlying challenges he faces, I've been cautious about pushing him too hard. But now it's clear that it's time for Daniel to find some stability. One day while I was at work, I received an unexpected text from Daniel. Dad's retiring, so we're going to Spain to celebrate starting today. I'm borrowing your platinum card. We're going to enjoy ourselves on your credit card. Alarmed, I call him immediately. What do you mean a trip? Just what I said. I don't understand. Just what I said, please explain. The implications of his actions are manifold. Celebrating Peter's retirement is fine, but Daniel should have discussed the trip with me before using and essentially taking my money and credit card without asking. The thought that he might have told his parents he paid for it himself, using my credit card no less, fuels my anger and sense of betrayal. This situation is a stark reminder that despite some steps forward, deeper issues still need to be addressed. Daniel's recent actions brought us to a notable moment in our ongoing struggles with responsibility and communication. As we discussed his upcoming trip to Spain, Daniel mentioned something that caught my attention. You mentioned borrowing a credit card. Do you mean the one from our house? Yeah, why? He replied nonchalantly. I own a platinum credit card. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just for those with high incomes. Factors like credit history and stable income play a part, and it's quite possible to secure one in your 30s. Despite its high annual fee, I find value in the benefits and points it offers. However, that credit card was supposed to be in my wallet. So, you took the credit card from home? I pressed. Yeah, so I'm counting on you for the payment, Daniel responded, a bit too cheerfully for the situation. His casual demeanor and readiness to depart made it clear he thought he had everything under control. But the truth was about to complicate his plans significantly. What are you waiting for? We need to leave, he urged, eager to get moving. Hold on, I interrupted. The credit card you took won't work. What? That can't be right. It's under Angela's name and it expires this month. It's close, but it shouldn't be an issue, he countered, disbelief creeping into his voice. You're lying, Angela. You're lying to stop me from using the card, aren't you? Daniel accused, his frustration mounting. Yes, it does expire this month, I admitted. That's why I've already received a new credit card. Sometimes when a new card is activated, the old one stops working. I've already started using the new card, so the one you took won't work. Are you kidding me? You think I'm lying? Daniel's voice was tinged with panic now. If you don't believe me, I can send you the URL to the credit card website, or you can just try using the card. It would be funny to see you try to pay with a card that doesn't work. This credit card really won't work? He muttered, more to himself than to me. I could hear his parents calling him in the background, but he seemed too flustered to respond. What should I do? I told them I'd pay for everything except the round-trip travel. Oh, they covered the flight? Yes, Dad felt bad about covering all the trip costs. Daniel explained, a hint of relief in his voice. What should I do? I'm about to take a cab and I don't even have money for that. That's not my problem, I responded firmly. You said you would pay for everything except the flight. Using my credit card in the first place was wrong. You should pay with your own money. How can I? I don't have any money right now, Daniel exclaimed, the reality of his predicament sinking in. Daniel, you haven't been taking work seriously, I concluded, the situation unfolding as a stark reminder of the broader issues at play. Daniel's reliance on deception rather than facing his responsibilities head-on led us to yet another crossroads. It all came to a head when Daniel tried to impress his parents by taking them on a trip without having any actual means to fund it. As I hung up the phone to return to my work, I left Daniel in a predicament where he would eventually need to confess to his parents about his financial deception. Later that evening, after my workday ended, I received a call from Helen, Daniel's mother. I heard from Daniel he tried to use your credit card and lied about working. I'm sorry for the trouble, she apologized. No, don't apologize, Helen. I'm sorry for the inconvenience with the credit card. Are you okay with the money? I asked, trying to smooth over the immediate concerns. We'll cover the cost of this trip. When we return, I'll make sure Daniel apologizes and starts looking for a job immediately, Helen assured me, though her voice carried a hint of worry. I appreciate that, Helen, but I'm considering divorcing Daniel, I confessed. letting the weight of my decision hang between us. Divorce? Because of this? Helen's surprise was evident, even though the phone. It's part of it, I admitted. Daniel has been taking money from me for a while. I stopped giving him money to limit his drinking. He got a part-time job and started buying his alcohol, but his salary couldn't cover his daily expenses. He's been taking money from my wallet to buy alcohol, sometimes just $10, sometimes $50. Over a year, it added up. When he took my credit card for this trip, it wasn't just about the money anymore. It made me realize he had no intention of changing. I understand. Should I inform Daniel about the divorce? Helen asked, her tone now somber. Could you just tell him I want a divorce? We'll discuss the rest when he gets home, I requested, hoping to manage the situation more personally once he returned. The next morning, Daniel called, likely having learned about the divorce from Helen, though I had asked her to wait. Feeling drained, I chose not to answer. That evening, when I returned home from work, I found Daniel had cut his trip short and was waiting for me in the living room. I'll start working seriously now. Please don't leave me, he pleaded, his apology seeming sincere. Seeing Daniel immediately apologize and display remorse was unexpected, but it came far too late. He had a whole year to change, yet here he was, asking for another chance now, after all my repeated warnings and the countless opportunities he wasted. I'm not going to give you another chance, Daniel. You gave up on me a long time ago. My decision is final. Can you leave? I said, standing firm in my resolve to move forward without him. The cycle of broken promises had to end, and with it, our path together. Please don't say that. If you won't leave, should I move out? Only if you can afford the rent here, I told Daniel, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. Daniel fell silent. The harsh reality of his financial instability and the looming divorce weighed heavily on him. He had no money for next month's rent, let alone a steady income to depend on. As the realization set in, he seemed to shrink before my eyes. With no options left, Daniel quietly left the house. I watched him go. A part of me wanted to offer help for transportation, but I reminded myself that Daniel isn't a child. He needs to manage his affairs. It was a sad moment seeing him depart under such strained circumstances. Later, after Daniel had gone to his parents' house, Helen called me. They had let him stay for the night, but told him he must leave the next day. They were worried that if he stayed longer, it might encourage his dependence on them. As tough as it was for them, they believed it was necessary for Daniel's development. When Daniel returned to our house, desperation was clear in his voice. Please help me, I've got nowhere to go and no money, he pleaded. That's the result of your actions. You need to handle this yourself, I responded firmly. Over the past year, all Daniel had done was neglect his responsibilities and do as he pleased. It was painful but necessary to deny him entry, turning him away right at our doorstep. The divorce proceedings, though tense, were expedited with the support of his parents. I'm not entirely sure what became of Daniel afterward. He's likely still hopping from job to job, crafting excuses for his situation. I thought I would feel lonely without Daniel, but I didn't. His presence had been a constant source of stress, always walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting him. Now, freed from the need to accommodate his whims, I've been living more comfortably. Unknowingly, our life together had become a burden, one I hadn't fully recognized until he was gone. Relieved of that weight, I now find myself living a lighter, more authentic life, no longer tethered to the needs and failures of someone else.